नाम क्या?
सुंदर गौर श्यामदास। सुंदर गौर श्यामदास।
सुंदर गौर श्यामदास। ये भी तेरी बुक है। क्या पढ़ेंगे? जगन्नाथ बाबा जी वाले। आज जगन्नाथ बाबा जी महाराज जी के डिसिप्लिन से
गौर किशोर दास बाबा जी।
सॉरी गौर किशोर
सॉरी जगन्नाथ दास बाबा जी महाराज।
दोनों है।
नहीं जगन्नाथ दास बाबा जी महाराज एक और
आज क्या है क्या एग्जैक्टली?
जगन्नाथ बाबा जी महाराज का 13 भाव है।
हाँ तो उनके बारे में
श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबा जी। सिद्ध जगन्नाथ दास बाबा जी Maharaj lived for 144 years. He took Diksha from Sri Madhusudan Das Babaji and did bhajan for many years at Surya Kund in Vrindavan. Thakur Bhakti Vinod received valuable instructions on pure devotional service from Sri Jagannath Das Babaji. His practice was to live 6 months in Sri Navdeep Dham and 6 in Vrajmandal. During his time, said Thakur Bhakti Vinod, Sri Jagannath Das Babaji was the most advanced Rasik Vaishnav in God and Vrajmandal and Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath Puri. Bhaktinod Thakur gave him the title Sarvabhauma, the chief of the Vaishnavas. At 125-year-old, his body appeared bent like a semicircle. His eyelids hung over his eyes like heavy stage curtains. Standing on either side, 2 disciples would lift his droppy eyelids so he could offer Tulsi Manjari to his deity of Sri Giriraj Govardhan. Since Jagannath Das Babaji could barely walk, Bihari, his Vrajvasi servant, used to carry him on his shoulders. But whenever there was a Naam Kirtan, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj would bolt out of his basket and leap 4 feet into the air. In great ecstasy, he would begin to sing and dance. He performed vigorous bhajan despite physical limitations. He was fond of chanting loudly in both japa and kirtan. During kirtan, he would sing, Nitai ki naam ene chere, ki naam ene chere, ki naam dite chere. O Lord Nityananda, what a wonderful name you have brought. O Nitai, what a wonderful name you have given. After chanting almost the whole night, the next morning he would offer 1108 dandavats to the deities. He was always enthusiastic to serve the Vaishnavas. He lived as an ascetic following a strict diet and the yearly Chaturmas, 4-month fast. The first month he ate only 4 bananas in the evening. Second month only guavas. Third month only whey. Fourth month only boiled banana flowers without salt. Once he begged a roti, flatbread, from a Vrindavan street sweeper. Hearing about this, the leading man of Vrindavan said to Jagannath Das Babaji, Baba, you are the crest jewel of Vraja. It pains us to hear anyone criticizing you. But now, everyone is talking against you. They are saying, Baba's gone mad. If he defies the age-old traditions, what will happen to society? Babaji Maharaj replied, you are all learned people. Don't you know the importance of the dust of Vrindavan? It is so surcharged with Krishna Prem that even Lord Brahma desires to become a particle of Vrajaraj, dust of Vrindavan. Therefore, isn't a Vrindavan sweeper who is constantly serving the dust, breathing it, rolling in it and bathing in it, more pure than anyone else? Silence filled the air, indicating everyone's acceptance of Babaji Maharaj's reply. While living in Navdeep Dham, Jagannath Das Babaji showed deep respect towards all residents. Even when some puppies ate from his plate, he didn't protest. Bihari, his servant, became disgusted to see dogs devouring his guru's prasadam and he drove them away. Jagannath Das Babaji scolded Bihari. These puppies are resident of the holy dham. They are not ordinary living entities. I will not eat until they come back to share the Mahaprasadam from my plate. At the age of 142, he couldn't see or walk. To confirm his findings, Thakur Bhakti Vinod requested Sri Jagannath Das to see Lord Chaitanya's appearance place. Intoxicated with Gauranga Prem, Jagannath Das Babaji leapt high in the air and began chanting and dancing at the discovery of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Yoga Peeth. Out of compassion for all the conditioned souls, Jagannath Das Babaji transferred his power of bhajan, knowledge of Shastra and Prem Bhakti directly into the heart of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, said Sripad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. Jagannath Das Babaji had many disciples. He often gave the following instruction. First, you must avoid women, men who associate with women, or with a man who is in any way associates with a man who associates with a woman. Second, to realize the supreme goal of life, you must repeat Harinam regularly and steadfastly. Steadiness is so important that it must be maintained even at the cost of one's life. Third, never forget Gaur, who is more merciful and benevolent than Krishna. Krishna is just like ruler who takes into account your offenses in his administration of justice. Gaura doesn't take your offenses into account, whereas Krishna is more interested in the dispensation of justice. Gaura is more interested in the distribution of mercy. From this point of view, Gaur Kirtan is more useful than Krishna Kirtan. Gaur Kirtan means Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavad. Fourth, Krishna is the avatar of Dwapar Yuga. Gaur is the Kali Yuga avatar. We should sing the name and glories of the avatar in whose age we live. Just as in a kingdom, we praise the ruling king. Jai Sachinandan Gaur Hari, Jai Sachinandan Gaur Hari. The Sonar Gaurang temple in Gopal Bagh, Vrindavan houses Gaur-Nitai deities once worshipped in Surikund by Sri Jagannath Das Babaji. In Krishna Leela, he serves as Rasika Manjari.
This is over, Guru Maharaj. Should we start from computer? Okay.
लैपटॉप में से कुछ और निकालना
The same.
Same?
Yeah.
Go back. He showed that.
Yes, well.
Just read it.
Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, a prominent spiritual master coming in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was the disciple of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Srila Jagannath Das Babaji, or Babaji Maharaj as he was known, was born in West Bengal in year 1776, but later moved to Vrindavan, where Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur met him in 1880. Because of his pure spiritual vision, Babaji Maharaj was able to reveal many holy sites of Navdeep, including Lord Chaitanya's birthplace, Sri Shivasangan, etc. It is said that although Babaji Maharaj was old and invalid, on finding Lord Chaitanya's birth site, he danced. When Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's son, Srila Bhakti Siddhant Saraswati, was 12-year-old, Babaji Maharaj, aware of boy's expertise in astrology, asked him to prepare a calendar for Vaishnavas. The boy pleased Babaji Maharaj by producing the Navdeep Panjika, a calendar of festivals and appearance and disappearance days of devotees that is still used today. While Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was very old and nearly blind, many people came to visit this great devotee, and they would give some donation, some money to him. His servant kept it carefully in a bag. One day he asked his servant, "Bihari, how many rupees have I got?" Bihari gave some rupees to Srila Jagannath Das Babaji, but he kept 12 rupees aside. He wanted to use that money to do something for his spiritual master. But Srila Jagannath Das Babaji, even though he was nearly blind, knew 12 rupees were missing and said, "Bihari, why did you keep 12 rupees aside? Give me all the rupees." Bihari smiled and gave his master all the rupees. It was about 200 rupees. He then told Bihari to go to the sweet shop and buy rasgullas and to give them to the cows in Navdeep Dham. Once in Vrindavan, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji asked his servant Bihari to locate a deity to install there. Nitai Gaur looked so beautiful when they were installed that it appeared as if they were made of gold. On the occasion of the installation ceremony, a sum of rupees 3,000 was spent to feed the Vaishnavas of Suryakund and Radhakund. One day, a band of dacoits broke open the temple door and quickly gathered up everything they could find, including the deities. However, in rushing to make their escape, they stumbled on the doorstep and dropped the deities. Seeing that the sun had risen outside, the dacoits left the deities and rushed off with the rest of the booty. After this incident, he asked Bihari to arrange for the deities to be cared for by someone else. Bihari handed them over along with 2,000 rupees to Mother Goswamini. At present, these deities are residing at Gopal Bagh in Vrindavan and are known as Sonar Gaur. Srila Prabhupada writes in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, first chapter. The direct disciple of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was Srila Narottam Das Thakur, who accepted Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti as his servitor. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur accepted Srila Jagannath Das Babaji, who initiated Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who in turn initiated Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, the spiritual master of Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Siddhant Goswami Maharaj, the divine master of our humble self. According to the Gaudiya Vaishnav Jivan, the Diksha Guru of Jagannath Das Babaji was Jagadanand Goswami of Shringavat, Vrindavan, whose Vesh Guru was Krishna Das Babaji of Govardhan fame. Jagannath Das Babaji took Babaji initiation from Madhusudan Das Babaji, who was initiated by Uddhav Das Babaji, who was initiated by Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan. Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was renowned as a perfectly realized soul. In his bhajan kutir in Vraj, he would sometimes chant continuously for 3 days and night without taking food or sleep. In 1880, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur visited Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj in Vrindavan, where he took instructions from him. During the 1880s, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur arranged a government post in Bardhaman that allowed him regular association with Jagannath Das Babaji. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur later established a Prapanna ashram nearby. Jagannath Das Babaji took up residence in Kulia, Navadip, where he passed his time on the bank of the Ganges, chanting the holy name. In 1893, the Babaji went to visit the residence of Srila Thakur Bhakti Vinod at Surbhi Kunj. From there, he travelled with his followers to Mayapur and visited Yogapeeth, Srivasangan and other holy sites. When he arrived at the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which had been discovered by Srila Thakur Bhakti Vinod, he began to dance in ecstasy. Jagannath Das Babaji was very old and followers thought he was unable to walk. His ecstatic dancing was taken as another sign of authenticity of Mahaprabhu's birth site. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur had Jagannath Das Babaji's association at Yogapeeth, where he cured one of Srila Bhakti Vinod's son's skin disease by having him lie in the dust where the Lord had appeared. According to Gaur Parishad Charitavali, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji lived for 135 years, during which time he constantly preached the holy name and fame of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Many people used to come and beg alms from Jagannath Das Babaji. He did not want to give them alms, but told them to do service. One day, a man named Sri Gaur Hari Das came and asked Jagannath Das Babaji for alms. But Babaji Maharaj would give him nothing. When the man persisted for 3 days, fasting outside Babaji Maharaj's tent, Babaji Maharaj finally relented. He tore off a piece of his coping, his undergarment, and gave it to Bihari Das, his servant, with the instruction to present it to the beggar as alms, thereby informing the beggar that he must first learn to control his senses before taking up the profession of a saint. One day, Sri Babaji Maharaj remarked about the professional readers of Srimad Bhagavatam. He said, "This kind of professional Bhagavad Kirtan is simply prostitution. Those who make their living by reading Srimad Bhagavatam are offenders to the holy name of Krishna. No one should listen to the Kirtan and Bhagavatam reading that they produce. And one who listens to such offensive reading and thus commits offenses against the holy name of Krishna certainly go to hell. Those who are involved in this professional reading should immediately give it up. Such a person should worship the residents of Vrindavan with great care and attention, considering himself most fallen, and thus pray for forgiveness." Srimad Bhakti Vinod Thakur remarked of Sri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj that he was the topmost general among Gaudiya Vaishnavas. When he was in his old age, Babaji Maharaj was nearly blind. Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was the Vesh or Babaji Guru of Bhagavad Das Babaji Maharaj. Bhagavad Das in turn gave the dress of a Babaji to Gaur Kishore Das Babaji. Jagannath Das Babaji's servant name was Bihari Das. He was extremely strong and powerful. In his old age, Babaji Maharaj could not walk. Bihari Das used to carry him in a basket on his shoulder so that Babaji Maharaj could move from place to place. When he went to Calcutta, Babaji Maharaj would stay at the house of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur on Manikantala Street. Bhakti Vinod was always very eager to invite him to the house for prasad. But Babaji Maharaj was very renounced and would come only occasionally. Srila Babaji Maharaj always had great enthusiasm for Kirtan and Vaishnav Seva. Even when he was nearly 135-year-old, he went on preaching the message of Sri Chaitanya throughout the world for the benefit of the fallen masses. In his old age, although he was almost paralyzed by infirmity, whenever it was time for Kirtan, he would raise his arms in ecstasy. When Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was 12 years old, he was an expert in the Jyotish Shastra, explaining Vedic astrology. Hearing this, Srila Babaji Maharaj one day called upon him to prepare the Vaishnav calendar in accordance with the proper Siddhanta. He did so, and Babaji Maharaj was very pleased. With this, the Navdeep Panjika, the Vaishnav calendar recording the dates of the appearance and disappearance of important Vaishnava saints and the celebration of important Vaishnava festival. Eventually, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj moved to Sri Dham Mayapur, where he lived by the banks of the Ganges, fully absorbed in chanting the holy names. He had the greatest reverence for the holy land of Navdeep. Although he was so renounced and so absorbed in Krishna consciousness, as his reputation spread, gentlemen would come to him and give him donations. Once Babaji Maharaj asked one of his servants to take the donations he had received, which he kept in an old burlap bag, and purchased a large pot of rasgullas. All the devotees were surprised because Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was so renounced and lived so simply. he would eat just the most simple rice and dal. Anyway, the servant brought the sweets and Jagannath Das Babaji offered them to his deities and then distributed them to the cows and dogs in the dham. He said the creatures of the dham were elevated soul and worthy of service. Later, Babaji Maharaj would not accept prasad until he had shared his food with 10 newborn puppies. He would wait until they came and he would count them with his hands. In his old age, Babaji Maharaj's eyelids dropped over his eyes and prevented him from seeing. So he would count them with his hands, and only after they had begun to eat would he also partake. He said, "They are puppies of the dham. They are not ordinary living entities." He had so much faith and affection for the dham. He had less affection for Mayavadi impersonalists. He used to say, "Let the dogs come in for darshan, but the impersonalists, kick them out." Srila Jagannath Das Babaji lived to a very old age. In fact, some Vaishnavas say that he was just waiting for Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur to come, someone to whom he could impart his special knowledge and realizations for the benefit of entire humanity. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur had requested to be transferred from his post in Odisha to Bengal, so he could be near Navdeep Dham, and eventually he was posted at Krishnanagar near Navdeep. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur did extensive research to determine the actual birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He studied various old maps, consulted the local people, and visited the different places. Eventually, he found a mound where many tulsi trees were growing. He got the intuition that this was the actual birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. But still, he wanted his intuition to be confirmed. At the time, Jagannath Das Babaji was the most renowned Vaishnava, and he was Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur's Siksha Guru. Thus Jagannath Das Babaji, a disciple, carried him to the place with the mound and tulsi plant. He was so old, over 140 years old. Some say that his disciples had to carry him in a basket, and his eyelids were so heavy that he had to open them with his hands to be able to see. So the disciples brought him, but they didn't tell him when they came to the site that Bhaktivinoda Thakur had determined was the birthplace. Still, when Babaji Maharaj arrived there, he spontaneously jumped out of his basket and began to dance in ecstasy, singing the holy names. Thus he confirmed the location of Sriman Mahaprabhu's birthplace. Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, Bhajan Kutir and Samadhi are there in Navdeep Dham in Koladweep. Devotees who perform Navdeep Parikrama visit there and get his mercy. We also pray to him for his mercy, that we may be instrumental in fulfilling the desire of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and the other acharyas in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, coming to us through Srila Prabhupada and his disciples. Today especially, we think of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, who left this world on Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj's disappearance day. Also in Gaud Mandal Bhumi, so speak briefly about him also. 2 years ago, I was in Deli for the disappearance day of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Just a few months after Goswami Maharaj passed away, as we were observing the ceremony in the temple, I was thinking how Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami was the perfect servant and therefore the fit representative of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Then I thought of him in relation to all the acharyas in the last 2 centuries. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada, who was the most prominent of them, and how he really took the mission to their heart. He was absorbed in fulfilling all aspects of their mission, developing Mayapur, distributing books, spreading the chanting of the holy names throughout the world in various ways. All the programs that were so important to our predecessor acharyas. Although I could speak of Goswami Maharaj's surrender and service for days, we have now the rare opportunity to hear from. Now this is Amok Leela Prabhu speaking. So I am thinking of 1 or 2 incidents I can mention and some realization I had from them. Srila Prabhupada was in Bombay, in Juhu. I was fortunate, actually by Giriraj Maharaj's mercy, to be able to be in Srila Prabhupada's room there. After about a month in Bombay, Srila Prabhupada was leaving that morning for Vrindavan. Madhav Prabhu and Upendra Prabhu were also there, though Upendra Prabhu was in and out of the room. Srila Prabhupada was just lying on his bed. He could hardly move. He couldn't even sit up by himself. He was so weak, he could barely speak. But then Srila Prabhupada said something. It was hard to hear what he said. So I leaned near him and asked, "What, Srila Prabhupada?" He said, "Call Tamal." So Upendra Prabhu went out to get Tamal Krishna Maharaj. When Goswami Maharaj came into the room, Prabhupada's bedroom, he offered Dandavat Pranam and then he got up. Srila Prabhupada asked him about the arrangements for going to Vrindavan. Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada." He offered Dandavat Pranam and he went out. A minute or 2 later, he came back in. He offered pranams again. He got up and then he told Srila Prabhupada the answer to Prabhupada's question. He said something. He got something ready and then he offered Dandavat Pranam and went out. This happened at least 3 times. He came in and went out. He came in and went out. He came in and went out within just a few minutes. It couldn't have been more than 5 minutes. Practically, every minute he was coming in, offering Dandavat Pranam, getting up, talking to Prabhupada for a few seconds or half a minute, offering Pranam again and going out. Later, after Srila Prabhupada left us, when I was Tamal Krishna Maharaj's personal secretary, I mentioned this to him. He said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada instructed me to do this." Srila Prabhupada said that because familiarity breeds contempt, it is very important when somebody is intimately serving the spiritual master that they keep a reverential mood. Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, of course, was such an intimate servant of Srila Prabhupada, yet he always mentioned that deep reverence, of course of love also, but at the same time, he always had such a deep reverence for Srila Prabhupada. Tamal Krishna Maharaj is such an ideal example of a personal servant and disciple. I am thinking of one another incident. Then, when I was Tamal Krishna Maharaj's personal secretary in 1978 in Bombay, as I mentioned to Giriraj Maharaj, I think the real reason Tamal Krishna Maharaj wanted me to be his personal secretary was so he could train me, because he has seen how disturbing my mismanagement was. I had been the vice president and the so-called manager of Hare Krishna land, and at one point during that time, Giriraj Maharaj had mentioned to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, "Amog Leela is mismanaging the affairs here." Goswami Maharaj said, there is no mismanagement. There is no mismanagement. So he felt that I needed some training in management. Therefore, he made me his personal secretary to train me. I think that was the main reason, and he tried to train me, and he did. He did train me a lot, although I didn't follow his training so well. But one incident where he trained me was very moving. Every time I think about it, he was teaching me how to clean the floor. I mean, I had been a devotee for 6 or 7 years. So I had been cleaning floors for a long time. Anyway, when I was cleaning the floor, he said, "No, that's not how you clean the floor." Because I had the cloth bunched up or something. So he took the cloth from me. He got down on his hands and knees. He spread the cloth out big. He folded it over once, I think just once, and he started cleaning the floor. I tried to stop him. I said, "Maharaj, it's okay. Let me do it." He responded, "No, I want to show you how to do it." And he cleaned for quite a while. He cleaned a large area and I was protesting, but he said, "No, just watch what I am doing." He had the cloth spread out quite big and he cleaned for some time. I tried to stop him again, but he explained, "No, Srila Prabhupada did this to me. Srila Prabhupada showed me like this." He got down on his hand and knees and he cleaned the floor to show me how to do it. So why can't you let me show you how to do it? So Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj was the perfect servant of Srila Prabhupada. As you said, Maharaj, the perfect servant or ideal servant becomes the ideal representative. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was so strict in following Srila Prabhupada exactly to the details, even how you open up a cloth, fold it and clean the floor. Every detail, everything. These are just a couple of incidents I was thinking about. Now this Giriraj Maharaj is sharing. When you begin saying how Tamal Krishna Goswami would come and offer full obeisances, I thought of what some devotees told me about his routine in Dallas after Srila Prabhupada left. Every night he would go into Srila Prabhupada's room where the deity of Srila Prabhupada was installed, and he would chant his last Gayatri and put Srila Prabhupada to rest. He wanted to do that as his personal service. And they told me that whenever Tamal Krishna Maharaj would leave the temple premises, even for an hour or two, he would first circumambulate the building. They gave me the impression that he was circumambulating Srila Prabhupada. Although, of course, he was circumambulating the other deities as well. But he was very conscious of Srila Prabhupada. In general, he was always very conscious of his lords and masters. Somehow, I also think of how, after Srila Prabhupada left, Goswami Maharaj distributed different remnants of Srila Prabhupada to different devotees. And he ended up with one of Srila Prabhupada's teeth. He placed his tooth in a silver capsule and hung it around his neck. Indradumna Swami, who was quite expert in getting deities and sacred relics, once was asking Tamal Krishna Goswami's question about the tooth. What was eventually going to happen to it? And Tamal Krishna Goswami understood that Indradumna Maharaj was trying to see if he could one day get the tooth. Tamal Krishna Maharaj just laughed and said, "Don't even think of it. I am taking it with me. Even after I leave, it will stay with my body." His idea was that by the tooth being put into his samadhi, people who circumambulated his samadhi or offered obeisances there would get the benefit of circumambulating Srila Prabhupada's tooth, of offering obeisances to his tooth. And on the absolute platform, Srila Prabhupada's tooth is as worshipable as he is.
Today is the Rasikananda Prabhu's disappearance day, so he's reading. Aj.
Sri Rasikananda Prabhu. Sri Rasikananda Prabhu, also known as Rasik Murari, appeared as the son of a king. He became a perfect sage, Gaudiya Vaishnava scholar, Rasik Bhakt, and most beloved disciple of Sri Shyamananda Prabhu. On Sri Shyamananda Prabhu's order, Rasikanand became the head pujari and served his guru's deity of Govindji with total dedication. His attentive loving service increased Govindji's beauty and pleasure. Rasik Murari enchanted the devotee with his unprecedented deity service. After firmly establishing Govindji's worship, he accepted Shyamanand's order to preach. He travelled widely for 40 years, influencing everyone with the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Rasikanand delivered everyone from pious royal families to Muslims, outcasts, agnostics, atheists, and even wild animals. One time, some mad elephants attacked Rasikanand. Calmly he chanted, Gauranga, Gauranga, Krishna, Krishna. While sprinkling water on the rampling beast, the elephants immediately stopped charging, humbly bowed their heads, raised their trunks, and bellowed, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. At the time of leaving his body, Rasikanand began a powerful kirtan. Then he left this world by entering into the Shirchur Gopinath deity in Rebuna, Odisha. Devastated in separation, his disciples dropped their mridangas, kartas and their bodies. The Pushp Samadhi of these pure devotees stand near the temple. Rasikanand Prabhu's Pushp Samadhi stand next to Shyamanand Prabhu's near to the temple of Radha Shyam Sundar.
You can stop now.
Thank you.
वो परम करोना पोका वो पूरा प्लेट वो आ गया यहाँ लेकर आ गया पानी दूसरे दूसरे मेडिसिन और खाने को ये दो मेडिसिन दो दो एक साथ में एक साथ मत लीजिए मैम एक साथ मत लीजिए अब लीजिए पहले मेडिसिन लीजिए ना वो छोटा होली गिर जाएगा अंदर लीजिए अंदर लो ना गिर जाएगा फिर से तीन एक साथ हाँ छोटे छोटे दूसरे नहीं दूसरे छोड़ दीजिए उसको रहो मारो अरेस्ट करना लाइट बंद कर दो साथ में रहो नहीं मालूम नहीं है मैंने सवाल कर दिया बेटा